and the deputy had been ignored, and as such, they will go ahead with the impeachment process. Our correspondent Charles Oporum reports.
The governor and the deputy governor are the aggressors, serial offenders of our constitution.
It's an unusual scene at the Rivers State House of Assembly. Instead of inside the chambers, lawmakers step outside to address the press. Their message is direct and unmistakable. The Speaker has received approval to proceed with impeachment actions against Governor Siminalayi Fubara.
The governor and deputy governor are acting as if Rivers State House of Assembly does not exist. They are unperturbed about the allegations and are still boasting through their media attack dogs that members will simply be called to stop and that members cannot enforce the constitution.
In a dramatic twist, 4 lawmakers who previously called for the suspension of the impeachment process have now withdrawn their appeal. They accuse the governor of what they describe as continued recalcitrance, saying dialogue has broken down.
I, Honorable Silvano Swankwo, and my fellow colleague here, Honorable Peter Abe, is saying that the impeachment proceedings should continue. We have rescinded our plea.
Regrettably, the governor and deputy governor have sent signals to us that they are not prepared to retrace their steps and govern in line with the constitution. They are adamant.
The momentum cuts across ethnic lines. Ijaw lawmakers also add their voices, signaling broad legislative backing for the process.
It's quite unfortunate. I can't help it. It's a constitutional matter. It's quite unfortunate that the governor is an authoritative governor, a strong man governor, and an executive autocrat.
I call on the Speaker of the Rivers House Assembly to immediately reconvene the legislature to perform its constitutional duties as empowered. If we do not save democracy today, then all of us, one day, at one time or the other, will be swallowed by lawlessness.
Following the press briefing, plenary resumes. The House then votes to formally investigate allegations of gross misconduct leveled against Governor Fubara and his deputy, Professor Ngozi Odo.
Members who are in support that the notice of allegations of gross misconduct against His Excellency Sir Siminalayi Fubara, GSSRS, Governor of Rivers State, be investigated should indicate by raising their hands. Please do the counting. Those in favor that the investigation should proceed are 25 in number. Against, nil. Abstention, nil. The Rivers State House of Assembly has resolved that investigations against allegations of gross misconduct leveled against His Excellency Sir Siminalayi Fubara, Governor of Rivers State, should proceed to the next level, which is investigation. And by virtue of Section 188, subsection 5, I will ensure that the resolution of this House is immediately communicated to the Chief Judge of Rivers State.
Moments later, the Speaker confirms that a letter has been dispatched to the Chief Judge of Rivers State requesting the constitution of a judicial panel to probe the allegations. Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, a Rivers State High Court sitting in Oyibo has ordered a temporary halt to the impeachment proceedings against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy, Professor Ngozi Maudu. Delivering the ruling in Port Harcourt, the court issued an interim injunction restraining the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, Martin Amewele, and 32 other defendants from taking further steps to advance the impeachment process. The order also bars the Chief Judge of Rivers State, Justice Simon Chibuzo Amadi, from receiving or acting on any impeachment-related request or any resolution from the Assembly aimed at setting up an investigative panel. The injunction is to remain in force for 7 days. Justice Florence Fiberesima granted the order after hearing separate ex parte applications filed by the governor and his deputy and approved substituted service of the court papers on the 1st to 31st defendants by pasting them at the Rivers State Assembly quarters. The Chief Judge also said that 32nd defendants is to be served through the judicial staff at his chambers. The matter has now been adjourned to January the 23rd, 2026 for the impeachment dispute as it now moves fully into the courtroom. Well, the Rivers State political crisis has no doubt taken a legal turn, a development that has now sparked diverse reactions, with some Rivers people questioning both the legality and the motive behind the Assembly's resistance and insistence on going ahead with the impeachment process of Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy Ngozi Odu, despite the court's intervention. Our correspondent, Deborah Mie Fiberesima, now reports.
As political tensions heighten in Rivers State, reactions continue to pour in over the impeachment moves against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy. Across the state, stakeholders are voicing divergent opinions, raising concerns about governance, constitutional order, and the potential impact of the crisis on peace and stability. Youth leaders under the South-South Youth Initiative, as well as Niger Delta Ethnic Youth Leaders Forum, have strongly criticized the impeachment bid, describing it as politically driven and constitutionally questionable.
Yes, we can nominated Smart Fubara, no doubt. But then we expected Yesom Wike, when you nominated Smart Fubara, you said this was an ordained person, that His Excellency Smart Fubara, the Executive Governor of Rivers State, was ordained as the Messiah that will lead Rivers State from the situation that we are today to the land of Jerusalem. Unfortunately, ever since Smart Fubara became the governor and the Rivers people supported him to become the governor of Rivers State, Yesom Wike has not allowed Rivers State to be in peace. We want Nigerians to be aware that the recent impeachment notice coming from the Rivers State House of Assembly led by Martin Zamuwili, it's not as a result of any financial misconduct. It's not as a result of financial issue. Rather, we see this as a total witch hunting from the Yesom Wike circle.
Meanwhile, the Rivers Elders and Leaders Forum is calling for greater transparency, demanding clarity on any alleged agreements said to be fueling the crisis. A member of the forum, Anaf Saraibe, insists Rivers people deserve full disclosure.
Impeachment was not meant for political witch hunting, and what we are seeing today is political witch hunting. I think Rivers people are not fed up. We are challenging Yesom Wike and Assembly to public those agreements. Those agreements are not known to Rivers people. And the governor is the governor of Rivers State. You cannot make agreements that are not known to Rivers people and expect the Rivers people to accept such agreement. If there are no hidden agenda, why don't you make those agreements public?
From the legal angle, Port Harcourt-based lawyer Cheta Mwala has described the impeachment move as self-serving, questioning whether lawmakers consulted their constituents and urging possible interventions by the National Assembly.
They want to impeach the governor. The reason they are impeaching the governor is just simply because they feel that the governor is no longer playing ball. But for how long will we be consumed as a state by this person? How long will the House of Assembly continue to hold us to ransom? If this House of Assembly is not ready to do business of lawmaking, then the National Assembly should immediately take over the legislative business of the Rivers State House of Assembly. Because it is now obvious that the Rivers State House of Assembly is no longer interested in continuing with the legislative business of Rivers State.
Human rights advocate Haya King has also weighed in, emphasizing the need to respect due process, warning that actions taken now could have lasting consequences for constitutional order in the state.
Of course, what the governor have done, getting an order restraining the chief judge from accepting any letter and constituting any panel to investigate the governor, which ought to have lasted for 3 months. If that is done, the 7-man panel will sit for 3 months to be able to take the governor will come in person, or he will send his lawyer to represent him in that panel. But right now, the court have given an order. Definitely, they should carry out their function, but the governor is saying that this proceeding is wrong. Some people are saying that this proceeding is wrong. You cannot do that, because you have to tell us the gross misconduct that the governor and the deputy have committed.
As reactions continue to trail the unfolding political crisis, residents of Rivers State remain watchful amid uncertainty over the next chapter in the state's political journey. Deborah Fiberesima, Channels Television News.
Let's take you back to a week ago when the State House of Assembly, led by the Speaker Martin Amewele, reaffirmed its effort to initiate impeachment proceedings against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy, Professor Ngozi Odu. The lawmakers unanimously called on the Chief Judge to set up a 7-member panel to investigate the duo on allegations of misconduct, including the demolition of the Assembly complex, the misuse of funds, and withholding of the statutory allocations to the lawmakers. And tensions have continued to mount, and we'll bring you more details as we continue on the news at 10. Away from that now, the National Economic Council has vowed to further expand Nigeria's non-oil revenue base, highlighting that the sector currently contributes about 75% of total government collections. Vice President Kashim Shettima made this commitment during the Council's 156th virtual meeting. The Vice President says the renewed focus on oil revenues and non-oil revenues align with the economic blueprint of President Bola Tinubu's administration.
The first National Economic Council meeting of the year is holding virtually as the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, is joined by his aides. The Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Mr. Atiku Bagudu, is accompanied by the Ministry's Permanent Secretary, Dr. Deborah Odo, in the office of the Vice President. Governors and other members of the Council joined the meeting virtually.
This is our first meeting of the year.
In his opening remark, the Vice President, who is also the Chairman of the Council, notes that the current economic reality has reinforced the urgency of fiscal risk management and the need to reduce the nation's economic and revenue exposure to oil.
Services, agriculture, and other non-oil sectors are increasingly carrying the weight of the economy. More importantly, non-oil revenues now contribute nearly 3/4 of total government collections. This marks a significant, if gradual, departure from our historic dependence on volatile oil receipts. The task before us is to deepen this transition through competitive manufacturing, export diversification, and private sector investments.
The Council was briefed on the level of implementation on the Lagos-Calabar and the Sokoto-Badagry superhighways. There was also a presentation outlining how the World Bank Group supports Nigeria's development goals, as well as the status report on the implementation of the tax reform. The presentations highlight key reforms of the government to stabilize the economy and put Nigeria on the path of sustained recovery and prosperity.
The programs implemented by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, which have reduced distortion in the system, stabilized the economy, and put Nigeria on the path of sustained recovery and economic growth. The presentation also reflected global recognition that this country has received from international organizations, which has now reinforced investor confidence in the economy, which is projected to grow at close to 5% in 2026.
The Council approved the constitution of a committee on the implementation of President Bola Tinubu's directive on the actualization of the legacy projects. The committee is chaired by Governor Basi Otu of Cross River State, with the governors of Sokoto, Gombe, Niger, Abia, and Lagos.
The chairman, the Enugu State Governor, who is also the chairman of the National Economic Council ad hoc committee on the rehabilitation of police training institutions in Nigeria, also gave an update report, and he assured the National Economic Council that consultants have visited the 20 institutions that have been identified for immediate repairs, and following release of money to the committee, work will start in earnest.
The Council resolved to take a more robust engagement on the new tax regime at its forthcoming conference, scheduled to hold next month in Abuja.
In part two, after the break, Supreme Court directs that the trial of former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido, his two sons and others over alleged 1.35 billion naira fraud proceed before the Federal High Court in Abuja. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. River State House of Assembly urges Chief Judge to start impeachment probe against Governor Fubara and Deputy as a State High Court issues interim injunction temporarily halting all impeachment actions. National Economic Council vows to expand Nigeria's non-oil revenue base. Vice President Kashim Shettima stresses the urgent need for a rapid shift towards a more resilient and diversified economy. The Supreme Court directs that the trial of former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido, his sons and two others over alleged 1.35 billion naira fraud proceed before the Federal High Court in Abuja. And President Donald Trump threatens tariffs on countries that resist his plans to annex Greenland, signaling escalating international tensions over the territory. And in Kaduna State, the government is asking youths across the northern region to take the lead in promoting awareness and understanding of the tax laws. The chairman of the Kaduna State Internal Revenue Service, Mr. Jerry Adams, made the call during the Youth Sensitization Summit of the federal government tax reform, which was organized by the Arewa think tank for the 19 northern states in Kaduna. Mr. Adams described the taxation as a key driver of inclusive development and good governance.
This summit, organized by the Arewa think tank, brings together youths, policy experts, and civil society actors at a one-day summit on tax reform. The aim is to engage young people across the northern region on the new tax laws, with a focus on sensitizing them on their roles in national development.
To wake up, become creative, innovative, and economically self-reliant. Our region is blessed with vast solid minerals, agricultural potential, and human capital. What the reform offers us is a pathway to responsible exploit of these resources, grow our internally generated revenue, and reduce our dependence on federal allocation.
The chairman of the Kaduna State Internal Revenue Service, Mr. Jerry Adams, is representing Governor Ubasani at the summit, and he urges the youth to champion the support for the laws in the interest of national development.
The tax reforms being implemented under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu JGCFR represent one of the most significant and far-reaching transformations of Nigeria's tax ecosystems in decades. These reforms are deliberate, bold, and timely. They are designed to align Nigeria's tax system with global best practices as found in developed economies.
After deliberations, the summit issues a communique stating their position on the tax reforms.
Renewed hope, national unity, fiscal responsibility, and inclusive growth. Key observation. After extensive deliberation, the Arewa think tank observed as follows: that the tax reform laws of the Tinubu administration are well-intentioned, forward-looking, and in the overall interest of Nigeria, with particular long-term benefit for northern Nigeria.
The Arewa think tank says it plans to continue engaging young people across the northern region through advocacy, policy dialogue, and capacity building initiatives to strengthen public trust and acceptance of the new tax laws.
We head to the courts now. The Supreme Court has ordered the continuation of trial of former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido, his two sons and others over alleged 1.35 billion naira fraud, directing that the case proceed before the Federal High Court in Abuja. Or the Apex Court, which gave this ruling in two unanimous judgments delivered by a 5-member panel, upheld the earlier ruling of the trial court, which dismissed the no-case submission filed by the defendants, holding that they have a case to answer. And the judgment followed appeals filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, challenging the decision of the Court of Appeal. The Apex Court set aside July the 25th, 2023 judgment of the Court of Appeal, which had struck out the 37-count charge on jurisdictional grounds. In the lead judgment, Justice Abubakar Umar affirmed the ruling of Justice Ijeoma Ojukwu of the Federal High Court, which ordered Mr. Lamido and others to open their defense. But the EFCC alleges that Mr. Lamido abused his office as governor between 2007 and 2015 by laundering funds received as kickbacks from companies that were awarded state contracts. Also charged in the case are his sons, Aminu and Mustafa Lamido, alongside Aminu Wada Abubakar, and two companies, Bamania Holdings Limited and Speeds International Limited. Meanwhile, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission witness David Ajoda has told the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Abuja that the Kogi State Internal Revenue Service paid over 1.16 billion naira as commission to the tax consultant within 8 months. Mr. Ajoda says that payments were made between January and August 2019, shortly after the consultant was engaged by the tax authority in Kogi State. He testified before Justice Marian Aneni during the ongoing corruption trial of former Kogi State Governor Yahya Bello and two others. Under cross-examination, Ajoda admitted that he had no knowledge of the details of the consultancy agreement. He also confirmed that the consultant did not breach the Central Bank of Nigeria's withdrawal limits and that no suspicious transaction report was filed. The witness further acknowledged that neither Mr. Yahya Bello nor his co-defendants featured in the bank records and that Kogi State government is separate from the Internal Revenue Service. Justice Aneni has further adjourned the hearing to February the 10th, 2026. Let's shift gears now as we head over to the nation's capital, Abuja, where Millicent Waka is standing by. Over to you, Millicent.
Many thanks, Anne. Well, let's talk security matters. Operatives of the Department of State Services have successfully rescued 2 pastors and a church member abducted by bandits in Kaduna State. The victims were kidnapped January 9, 2026 in the Gwagwada area of Chukun local government area, and they were traveling through Kogoshi en route Sakin Power to Niger State to officiate a wedding ceremony. Now, following coordinated intelligence and security operations, the DSS tracked the abductors and secured the safe release of the victims. In the process, 3 suspects believed to be connected to the abduction were arrested and are currently in custody for further investigation.
The rescued victims have been identified as Reverend Idi Buhari, Emmanuel Jacob, and Suleiman Adamu, members of the Evangelical Church Winning Ways for All, ECWA. They were abducted on January 9, 2026, while traveling to officiate a wedding ceremony. Their journey was cut short by kidnappers, sparking concern within the church community and beyond. A swift intelligence-led operation by the Department of State Services, however, led to the safe and timely rescue of the victims.
Those that have been rescued, and we have seen as at this moment, 3 in number, who were transported from Niger to Kaduna yesterday as at 9 p.m. We have seen them. One of them is seriously going through some health challenges, and with the health facility they have in the headquarters here in Kaduna, where we met them, he's positively responding to treatment.
Family members and church leaders have expressed deep appreciation to the DSS, describing the rescue as a reassuring development amid growing security concerns across the Northwest Zone. Meanwhile,
I have come here on behalf of the church to celebrate the braveness of our gallant men of the State Security Service in Kaduna and Niger State and all other security agencies for the effort they are putting to ensure that our friends, our brothers, innocent Nigerians that have been kidnapped by bandits or terrorists are being rescued.
Meanwhile, operatives of the DSS from Niger and Kaduna State Commands, working jointly, arrested 3 suspects linked to the kidnapping. The suspects are also believed to be involved in arms and ammunition trafficking along the Kwara, Niger, Katsina, Kaduna axis, using rural communities to evade security checkpoints. Reacting to the development, the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs commended the DSS leadership for its sustained efforts, stressing that the state under Governor Ubasani will no longer be a safe haven for bandits.
I want to seriously assure you that the efforts of His Excellency, the Governor, is to ensure that we all go to our beds and sleep with our 2 eyes closed.
With the successful rescue and arrests, the DSS has reaffirmed its commitment to tackling kidnapping and violent crime, urging the public to continue supporting security agencies with timely and credible information.
Well, staying with security, this time troops of Operation Hardin K have foiled coordinated terrorist attacks in parts of Adamawa and Borno states, neutralizing several insurgents during follow-up operations. This was disclosed in a statement by the Acting Media Information Officer, Joint Task Force Northeast, Operation Hardin K, Lieutenant Solomon Atokolo. According to the statement, the attacks occurred in the early hours of Friday, January 16, 2026. In Adamawa State, the terrorists attempted to overrun a patrol base at Sabongere in Madigali local government area under Sector 4 of the operation. Troops at the base engaged the attackers with reinforcement support from Gulag and a battalion quick reaction force, forcing the insurgents to retreat. No casualty was recorded among the troops, while the area was later cleared and scanned for possible improvised explosive devices and booby traps to ensure safety. On the same day, in Borno State, terrorists also launched a large-scale multi-directional attack on the forward operating base at Azir. The attackers attempted to breach parts of the defensive perimeter, but were repelled following a prolonged firefight that lasted over an hour. Still ahead on the news at 10, and a major capital market reform. Securities and Exchange Commission raises minimum capital requirement thresholds for fintechs and visual asset operators. That's in business news. Join us again. You're watching the news at 10, come to you live from our Abuja studios. We're still talking security, this time in Kogi State, where the governor, Usman Ododo, has ordered the demolition of a notorious structure popularly known as Sambel Joint in a Joji community in Okene local government area of the state. Well, this follows a credible intelligence linking the structure to various criminal operations, signaling a stance by the state administration against anyone threatening public safety and order. The governor cautioned residents against harboring criminals, warning that whoever violates the law will be treated as a criminal.
This demolition exercise within the country home of Governor Usman Ododo is coming hours after the state government issued a press statement invalidating all fraudulently and illegally acquired properties across the state. Governor Ododo, in the company of the State Commissioner for Works, is on ground to ensure that his order for structures that are used as criminal hideouts are removed. Security operatives also take positions to ensure there's no breakdown of law and order. As the bulldozers get to work, more illegally acquired buildings are removed as residents try to salvage what is left of the structure.
We are here to carry out an action that is in the best interest of our people. You know, I was sworn in on the 27th of January 2024, and by 27th of January 2026, I'll be 2 years in office. What I have sworn in to do is to protect lives and livelihood of my people, and as such, I will always work to secure my people.
Some occupants of the affected buildings agree with the action of the state government.
We just say one day, we see some people come and fence this place. Even as we community, men and women, we beg, even for only 2 inches, make them give us, make we can take and pass. They say they can't give. So we don't know what is happening. But today we see our governor is here to demolish this place, to save we people that here in this community.
Governor Ododo reaffirmed his administration's unwavering commitment to security, stressing that the protection of lives and livelihood remains his foremost responsibility.
When we discover that the activities going on here is giving our people unrest, so we have to take a bold decision to secure our people, because that is part of what I have signed to do. And as I've said, I will never negotiate with any criminal.
The governor believes this will send a clear signal that criminal hideouts will not be tolerated in the state, stating that the community can be rebuilt in safety with ongoing efforts to ensure peace and security.
Well, that's it from Abuja. Back to Lagos for more on the news at 10.
Thank you, Millicent. Now let's take you back to our lead story. Just a week ago, the State House of Assembly in Rivers State, led by the Speaker, Martin Amewele, reaffirmed its support to initiate the impeachment proceeding against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy, Professor Ngozi Odu, while lawmakers unanimously called on the Chief Judge to set up a 7-member panel to investigate allegations of misconduct. But as tensions continue to mount, our judiciary correspondent Shola Shuyele in this report examines the constitutional grounds for impeachment as well as the role of the judiciary.
Under Section 188 of Nigeria's 1999 Constitution as amended, impeaching a state governor or deputy involves a thorough process aimed at preventing abuse and ensuring accountability for gross misconduct considered a severe breach of the Constitution or unacceptable conduct as determined by the House of Assembly. The key stages include the notice, which is a written petition with allegations of the gross misconduct signed by at least 1/3 of the House members and submitted to the Speaker. In the case of Rivers State, 10 out of 30 lawmakers are required to sign. Within 7 days, the Speaker delivers the notice to the governor or deputy and all members of the House. The accused persons can then respond, and the responses are shared with the lawmakers. Within 14 days, the House subsequently votes on whether to proceed. A 2/3 majority is required. In the case of Rivers State, 20 out of 30 lawmakers are required at this stage. If approved, the Speaker requests the Chief Judge to appoint a neutral 7-member panel comprising persons of unquestionable integrity who are not members of any public service, legislative house, or political party to investigate the allegation. The accused persons can defend themselves legally before the panel. Within 3 months, the panel shall submit its findings to the Assembly. Where the panel reports that the allegation has not been proven, no further proceedings shall be taken in respect of the matter. But if the allegations are upheld, a 2/3 vote of the Assembly in favor results in immediate removal of the office holder. No appeal is allowed against the panel findings, though procedural issues can be challenged in courts. Shola Shuyele, Channels Television News.
To company news now, Dangote Cement has honored its distinguished distributors for exceptional performance, resilience, and dedication to product distribution, describing them as the heartbeat of the organization and the key drivers of its growth. Speaking at the 2025 Customers Award ceremony in Lagos, themed Partners for Growth, the President and Chief Executive of Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, reaffirmed the company's commitment to strengthening collaboration with distributors and partners to deepen value creation across its businesses.
The Dangote Cement 2025 Customers Awards and Gala brings together hundreds of distributors and business partners from across Nigeria and beyond, alongside friends and associates of the president of Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote. It's an evening of celebration, entertainment and recognition, marking Dangote Cement's achievement in 2025, successes driven largely by strong partnerships with distributors and customers.
We have maintained our position as a leading cement manufacturer thanks to your tireless efforts in driving sales and expanding our reach. We'll continue to provide supporting facilities that improve your ease of doing business, drive more volumes, and unlock more profits for you.
Appreciating distributors and partners, the group's president, Aliko Dangote, uses the occasion to announce major expansion projects under the company's Vision 2030, including a significant increase in cement production capacity.
The target that we have, our cement company will end up being at about 90 million tons by 2030. And 90 million tons by 2030 means that we're 50% more than the entire production of Saudi Arabia. We remain committed to strengthening the bond that has sustained our partnership over the years. We are genuinely interested in seeing your business grow bigger, stronger, and more profitable. I want to thank you for your perseverance, trust, loyalty, and for providing vital linkage between Dangote Cement PLC and the end users.
The main high point of the evening is the announcement of awards and prizes, including plaques, cars, trucks, Dangote Cement products, and cash rewards to outstanding distributors and customers in various categories. In the National Distributors category, Kazab Heritage Limited emerges the overall winner.
It is an output of a whole year planning and proper persistent behavior. So it was really what we were expecting. We are not expecting anything than that excellent result that was communicated tonight.
The Dangote Cement Customers Awards and Gala underscores the company's commitment to partnership, excellence, and shared growth as it continues to strengthen its distribution network and positions itself for another year of expansion, innovation, and leadership in the industry.
I will continue in the world of business. Let's join Dominic Iwewu to bring us more stories.
Thank you, Anne. And on business news, after a 10-year period, the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has revised the minimum capital applicable to all categories of regulated capital market entities in the country. The revised rules affect digital asset operators or financial technology companies, fintechs, brokers, dealers, fund managers, issuing houses, and market infrastructure institutions. According to a statement released today, the SEC says the reforms aim to strengthen market resilience, enhance investor protection, discourage undercapitalized operators, and align capital adequacy with the evolving risk profile of market activities. The capital market regulator mentioned affirms that all affected entities are required to comply with the revised minimum capital requirements on or before June 30th, 2026. The federal government has inaugurated committees to implement Nigeria's national intellectual property policy and strategy. The move is aimed at boosting innovation, trade competitiveness, and economic diversification for the country. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who inaugurated the Interministerial Steering Committee and Interagency Coordination Group in Abuja today, noted that the policy implementation phase would deliver tangible benefits to innovators, businesses, farmers, researchers, and creators across the country. She highlighted that Nigeria undertook a 5-year inclusive audit of its intellectual property ecosystem involving government, academia, industry, and the creative sector. Now, outside the International Monetary Fund, IMF says the recent decline in Nigeria's inflation rate in December 2025 could ease the country's living pressure and support economic stability if sustained. The IMF's country representative to Nigeria, Christine Ebeke, who made this known in an interview with journalists, say that the inflation rate, which stood at 15.15% last month, against the projected 30 and above % earlier projected by economists, is a positive signal for Nigeria's economy. The IMF commended the revised inflation methodology, which is adopted by the National Bureau of Statistics in line with global standards, citing it as critical to improving the quality of inflation data. Now, Nigeria's stock market ended Friday's trading session in the green after a brief loss recorded on Thursday. Lydie Williams tells us more.
Well, it's been quite the week in the market, and it all came to a head yesterday with the release of December inflation numbers. From macro uncertainty to shifting investor sentiment, traders have had a lot to digest. So how did the market price it all in today? Let's take a look at the winners, the losers, and the big moves that define today's session on the NGX. And we'll see a flat close there, but it's in the green. Now we'll take that. 166,000 for the all-share index, snapping the loss we saw from yesterday, from profit-taking there. But, looking at volume and value traded today, we're seeing investor sentiment was, quite subdued. Let's look at the sectors that we track now. And we see the banking counter, that's up 0.38%, consumer goods 0.14% up. The low laggard today for the sectors that we track, oil and gas, after that big dramatic 6% gain earlier this week. And that wraps up trading for today. Closing the books on a week shaped by fresh inflation data and shifting expectations about the economy. On the radar now is our audited Q4 results. We'll see how investors react to all of that. But this week, we're up over 2%.
And that's it on business news. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. And outside our shores, U.S. President Donald Trump has escalated his push for Greenland takeover, threatening to impose trade tariffs on any country that opposes a U.S. acquisition of the Danish territory. And while President did not specify nations that will be targeted, he signaled that the move is tied to American national security interest. Hey, Simon Pusey with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Venezuelan opposition leader Mario Corina Machado has given her Nobel Peace Prize medal to President Donald Trump during a meeting at the White House, saying it was a recognition of his commitment to her country's freedom. She met Trump in Washington weeks after U.S. forces seized Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in Caracas and charged him in a drug trafficking case. Trump said on social media that the move was a wonderful gesture of mutual respect, but the Nobel Committee said the prize itself was not transferable. The U.S. president has declined to endorse Machado as Venezuela's new leader, despite her movement claiming victory in 2024's widely contested elections. Trump has instead been dealing with the acting head of state in Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez. But he said meeting Machado was a great honor, calling her a wonderful woman.
200 years ago, General Lafayette gave Simón Bolívar a medal with George Washington face on it. Bolivar since then kept that medal for the rest of his life.
South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol will be jailed for 5 years over abuse of power, obstructing justice and falsifying documents in relation to his failed martial law bid in 2024. This is the first of the verdicts in 4 trials linked to his shock martial law decree. Although short-lived, the move triggered nationwide turmoil, sparking protests as MPs rushed to the National Assembly to overturn Yoon's decision. Yoon's actions plunged the country into political crisis, a judge said on Friday, noting that Yoon had consistently shown no remorse. Friday's ruling offers clues as to how the rest of Yoon's trials could go. The most serious charge is insurrection, for which prosecutors have demanded the death penalty. The verdict in that trial is expected in February.
Early this morning,
Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has taken a strong lead in partial results from Thursday's presidential election. That's according to the Electoral Commission. Figures announced on Friday morning put Museveni in front with 76% of the votes based on returns from 45% of the country's polling stations. He is followed by opposition leader Bobi Wine with 20%. Security forces have surrounded Wine's home in the capital Kampala, effectively placing him and his wife under house arrest.
to put the people of Uganda on notice.
Wine, a 43-year-old pop star turned politician, has alleged massive fraud during the election, which was held under an internet blackout. He did not provide documentary proof, and the authorities have not responded to his allegations. Ethiopian police say they have seized thousands of rounds of ammunition sent by Eritrea to a violent armed rebel group, stoking fears of renewed armed conflict. Eritrea has denied the allegation and accused Ethiopia of floating false flags. It comes at a volatile moment for the relationship between the two countries, which share a fractious and violent history. Hopes of a tentative peace forged during a civil war in northern Ethiopia have of late given way to a war of words over control of the Red Sea. The latest claim appears to be a sign of further escalation. US President Donald Trump has threatened to invoke the rarely used Insurrection Act to quell unrest over federal immigration enforcement operations in Minneapolis. He threatened to send in troops following a night of protests and vandalism in the Minnesota city after an agent shot a man in the leg. The Department of Homeland Security said an officer opened fire after he was attacked by 3 Venezuelan nationals with a shovel and broom handle. A group of aid workers who were put on trial in Greece for rescuing migrants on the island of Lesbos have been acquitted of all charges. The 24 former volunteers were arrested 7 years ago, accused of human trafficking and other offences, and could have faced up to 20 years in jail. They had worked for an NGO that rescued asylum seekers at risk of drowning between 2015 and 2018, when hundreds of thousands of migrants crossed the narrow straits from Turkey to Greece. Their case was widely criticised by aid agencies and human rights campaigners as an attempt to criminalise humanitarian aid, and was seen as having profound implications for migration policy across Europe. And a Chinese woman in her 20s has roused the spirits of millions after asking for help with a traditional community feast. Dai Dai said her father was too old to prepare and cook the pigs in the run-up to Chinese New Year, so turned to social media, promising that those who came to their village Qingfu to assist would be treated to a pork banquet. Her appeal for help attracted more than 1 million likes, with thousands of cards pouring in. When the mass banquet did happen, it was watched live online by more than 100,000 viewers and registered 20 million likes. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. In the world of sport, 3-time African champions, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, will bid for a 9th Africa Cup of Nations bronze medal when they take on Egypt, who have won the bronze medal 3 times in Saturday's third-place match in Casablanca, Morocco. This will be the 10th meeting between the two sides at the Africa Cup of Nations. The Super Eagles have won 5 out of their 9 previous meetings at the AFCON.
We have to do a good game. We have to looking for a winning, because we did a great tournament. So we have to come in back in Nigeria with the 3rd place. We are a group, and some players will have a chance to show what they can do.
tomorrow will be a very great game. We don't reach towards the end of the competition, and it was a painful loss on the last one, but tomorrow we'll just look forward to the next one and try to get something out of it.
And the Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2025 has rewritten the competition's history after becoming the highest scoring edition ever, with 120 goals already scored ahead of the third-place match. And on Sunday's final, the landmark figure surpasses the previous record of 119 goals, which was scored during the last edition of the competition in Côte d'Ivoire, and underlines the attacking intent, the technical quality, and growing confidence of teams across the African continent. Prior to that, 102 goals were scored at the 2019 tournament in Egypt, when the tournament was expanded from 16 to 24 teams. And the main news again. Rivers State House of Assembly has urged the state chief judge to start impeachment probe against Governor Fubara and his deputy as the State High Court issues interim injunction temporarily halting all impeachment actions. The National Economic Council has vowed to expand Nigeria's non-oil revenue base. Vice President Kashim Shettima stressed the urgent need for a rapid shift towards a more resilient and diversified economy. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I am Anne Nwawode. Thank God it's Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. Good night.